What's going on, people? Welcome to the Offside Chat podcast on the Beat London 103.6 FM. It's your boy Naber. Today, let's just introduce the panel straight away. We've got a team member, Naeem, Edward, and the one and only Mike, man. How are you guys doing? You all right?
All good, brother.
All blessed, Brian.
Listen, man, we're all good. Can't complain.
Exactly. Well, listen, look, this is a show where we're just going to do like a roundup of the European Championships, the highs, the lows, the winners, the losers. But to be fair, there's just one story that we have to talk about. It's probably one of the biggest stories in English football right now. Gareth Southgate resigns as England manager. Naeem, what do you make of this?
I think the writing was on the wall, isn't it? To be fair, I think he's taken England as far as he can. If anything, and we'll go into a bit further, I think England's limitations was partly because of himself, and we'll discuss that further on, and we will discuss that when we talk about the game and everything. I think, to give him his credit, he did come into England where we were a bit of a mess, and he recalibrated it and gave England, to be honest, England fans, we don't go to finals, right, in England, so made them great. We had great players he's got to use, but I just felt that he improved the setup internally. There's a bit more respect now for the English team generally, accordingly. Has some great players, but I just felt he had his favourites, and he should have won one of those tournaments. Mainly the last Euros for me. I think he's done a good job, but I think he has let himself down in places where he could have done a bit better. And that's my point of view. I've never been Southgate's biggest fan.
Mm-hmm.
And he had nowhere to go after this, to be fair.
Right.
So as much as there is a lot of limelight about getting to the final, let's talk in facts when we talk about the run to the final as well.
Okay, we can talk about it. Let me just challenge you on one or two things that you said. Now, I said that England should have won. I think I spoke about on the last podcast about pedigree. Now, if you were a French supporter, a Portuguese supporter, an Italian supporter listening to that, why should England have won? There's teams that have got better pedigree that have consistently won. So why is it? I just want to press you on that.
No, of course. I mean, you can talk about pedigree. If you go back to the Hungary team in the 50s, it's where do you cross the line? I think the thing is,
were you watching football back then, mate?
No, I'm old. You know this, bro. No, I think the thing is, pedigree is one thing, right? Yes, but you've got to look at you've got to play what's in front of you. I think England obviously got to the final, and I think it masked over a lot of issues. Everyone was talking about in the press and everything, and he didn't change it up. You saw how different England were with certain different players playing in that team. I just felt that he didn't really have the personality or the strength to change it up from the start. And
you talk about tactically,
and I think that's been his thing historically. I mean, if you look at when everyone talks about this is the best crop of English players we've ever had, but if you look at when we've stepped up against other teams who, have the pedigree but might not be as strong as they previously have, we've struggled. I mean, his record against the big boys doesn't, and then everyone talks about you've got the potential Ballon d'Or winner allegedly was going to be Bellingham, right? But La Liga Player of the Year, you've got Foden, who's going to be the best thing since last, but you've got Saka. You've got so many tools that he just felt like he was just going to use the same hammer, chisel, spanner. And he just feels. I think he limited England over this period of time. He's done a good job to get, I think, the camaraderie right and all those bits. But I think tactically he wasn't good enough with the players we've got.
No, that's fair points, and a lot of people will definitely around the nation will echo what you've got to say. Mike, are we spoiled? He had 3 seasons managing Middlesbrough. He went on to manage the England under-21. Sam Allardyce decided to have a meeting with a particular person to talk about his CV and extra work that he wanted to get on. Got sacked, ashamedly, and he stepped up as an interim manager, impressed, and he basically is, on record, probably the second most successful England manager. Is it harsh?
It's a difficult one because I think in some ways, as Naeem says, this is a man, I really like Southgate because I think he's a decent man. And I think he's someone that's restored pride into the national team, right? So if you think about where most England fans were before he took over, you go into a tournament dreading the worst. You wouldn't really enjoy watching the team play. You'd hate most of the players. Whereas now, when you speak to people in and around watching England, they'll say things like, "Oh, I just love this group of players. I want to get behind this group of players. Look at Bukayo Saka. Look at Kane and all this." Like, everyone's excited about the different players we have now, and that wasn't the case before. And I think
Trent as well. Trent, of
Trent,
course.
all these different players, you have to pick up Trent. You know how it goes. But everyone's excited to watch this team because he's built a culture around the team where they're a likable group of lads. They get on with one another, and the relationship between us and them is restored. We trust them, and I think a lot of that comes from him. I think where Southgate has paid a price, unfortunately, is just tactically. I think at times in games where, we're playing against a really top side, I think the only time he's got it right, and it's a shame we lost the game, is France. So when we played France in the quarterfinal of the World Cup,
Right?
I thought we should have won the game. I thought the game plan was spot on, and if it wasn't for Kane's penalty miss at the end, we probably win the game. So I think the one time he got it right, we unfortunately lost the game. But generally speaking, when you think of the big games he played in the last couple of years, Croatia, Spain in the final, Italy in the final, he just hasn't quite got it right, I don't think. I think the Spain game, and I haven't watched it back, and I watched it in a pub, and it's a bit of a weird environment to watch a game. But my initial feeling having watched the game was we were just outplayed. Like Spain were just much better than us. Like if Spain won the game 2 or 3-0, you probably wouldn't look at that and be like, it's an unfair result.
I think
Spain were better.
I called 3-1 before the game, and if it wasn't for Pickford and even Lamel actually missing it was basically he should have finished it. That would have been a fair score. But you honestly, Mike, you've raised some very, very good points. I just want to touch on that in terms of the character of the man. A lot of people will say, look, football, we're only here to win. And I understand that. But I do believe that there was a disconnect with the supporters and the players. Obviously, before you had the England camps, you had the Chelsea camp, the Man United camp, the Arsenal camp. You had a lot of, their own separate little camps. Obviously, the relationship with the media. I thought out of all England managers, I thought he handled the media fantastic. He's a man that would speak about political things, racial, discussions. He wouldn't shy away from that. Everyone's going to probably say, okay, I can understand why you're going to support him. But with the abuse that Saka, Jadon Sancho, got with Rashford as well, I just thought that I've seen managers in the past, England managers, talk about racism, but with him, I actually thought it was quite genuine with him. Obviously, Saka's given a glowing, goodbye from him, how he really supported him. I like that about Southgate as well. And it's just, as I said, I agree with you, maybe tactically, but I kind of feel that he's actually overachieved. Yes, he has a fantastic group of players, but look at Brazil 2006, Kaká, Adriano, Ronaldo, R9, we're talking about Ronaldinho. Sometimes you can have these players, and if you're not there tactically, the team is not going to win. But when I look at his CV, 3 years at Middlesbrough and England under 21s, if you told me with that CV that you are going to get to 2 European finals and a quarterfinal in the World Cup, semi-final and then a quarterfinal and then 2 finals, I kind of feel he's overachieved. Some people might think, but he should have done more, but that's what I personally do. I agree with Naeem when he said that I've never been sold on him tactically. So for me, there's nothing new here. I'm not going to be overly disappointed with him. Edward, England till you die, of course. How sad are you? How sad are you to lose Southgate?
Not very. And it's no disrespect to the man. I think, he can look back when the dust clears on his England career and actually be quite proud. I think he's got the 3rd or 4th highest win percentage in the modern era, behind Glenn Hoddle, Capello, and I think it might be Sven. So on that alone, he's won just under 60% of his games as England manager. Again, in the tournaments, a semi-final of the World Cup, 2 European Cup finals, and a quarter-final in the last World Cup. So in terms of going far in competitions, he knows how to do it. But where it gets a bit tricky is if you have to look at the route it's taken. He's had some favorable draws. Whenever it's someone we should beat, he happens to do it. It might not be convincing, but he gets it over the line. Now, when it's a comparative team or team better, he severely struggles. And it's almost like he's outthought on the touchline, and his conservative nature gets the better of him. Because if you look at the games where we should be taking it to teams, we don't. It's almost like we get energized when we go down 1-0, and then when we either equalize or go ahead, the job is to retreat. And I don't think with the players he's had, it should be that kind of way. But then again, you have to look at it. He was a defender by trade, so he's always naturally cautious. I think that was probably what's killed him when it comes to winning games.
Or probably helped him, Ed. Because if you got a semi-final World Cup, quarter-final World Cup, of course you face France, and then you've got 2 back-to-back European Championships, and you made the finals. I agree with a lot of that what you've said, but then maybe that cautious approach. I mean, he's no Deschamps, let's just say that. But Deschamps is, if you want to talk about being cautious, with having weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, 100%.
Is Jeremy Corbyn being in control of weapons of mass destruction? Deschamps is. It don't matter who he's got. He's just going to play the same way. So maybe that's helped him, though, Ed.
Yes, no, but I mentioned the route. The route to these finals and semi-finals. Who did he really play? Like, no disrespect to the competition, but if you're England with quote unquote the greatest crop since whatever, you expect to beat Colombia on your way to a semi-final, and these lower teams, lesser lights. Switzerland, they gave us a good game, but on paper you'd say England are better than Switzerland, better players playing for more prestigious clubs, etc. So you go out there and show the reason why you've got a potential future Ballon d'Or winner. You've got Foden being spoken about like Zidane and all these things. So you have to look at the route, and we're going to touch on it later. But look at Spain's route to eventually winning it. Look who they dumped out. They had a treacherous route, and they made light work of pretty much everyone. Dumped out Croatia, dumped out France. You know what I mean? And
they beat Italy. Well, the holders, they beat Italy.
Exactly. So, listen, if England had won on Sunday, no one cares about the route. But unfortunately, you lost on Sunday. So you have to look at things holistically in totality. And I think when you have to face someone better than you or equal, Gareth Southgate was found wanting, unfortunately. And I don't think anyone can be too sad. When the dust clears, you can look at what he's done. He's brought prestige back to the setup. Players are respecting the England camps more. They actually want to play for England now. It's not looked at as a burden. But in terms of going, that one step and bringing, a trophy back to these shores since 1966, it wasn't to be.
Yeah, I think the way I see Southgate is, I read an article earlier it's a really good article that compared him to Wenger. And it was a comparison to like latter-day Wenger, where you'd often have latter-day Wenger.
He's the best in the business. This is what I should have actually just messaged him, but I'm gonna give him his flowers. Mike is the best in the business. Mike, sorry, let me get quiet.
He's a nasty you about best in the business.
The article compared Wenger and Southgate, and what it was basically saying was these two obviously like really decent men, lovely guys. Get like Wenger in his latter days, obviously Nobel was leading the Wenger out movement at the time.
No, he was there, bro.
But that version of Wenger, he'd often give interviews after a game where like they would make you more angry because Wenger wasn't able to diagnose why Arsenal lost the game. So Arsenal just lost the game, and Wenger's kind of saying like, well, we played well, and it's like, well, actually, no, you didn't, mate. You got battered. And I think with Southgate, you often listen to him after a game, or just in general, you have the sense that he can't quite get to grips with those really top games where beyond the France game I spoke about, where he actually had a really good game plan, in those top elite clashes with England versus Spain or Italy, whoever it might be, he hasn't quite got the tactical nous to go up against those teams and have a tactical plan that makes it uncomfortable for those teams. Because against Spain, again, on the weekend, I just think we struggled throughout. We had a 10-minute spell before, and the Palmer goal kind of ends that spell where we look good. But beyond that, we really struggled in the game, I feel. And I don't think we had ever had a foothold in the game. And I think I love Southgate, but I think that'll be his ultimate failing. I think I see him as a transition manager because he's someone that's restored the feeling. So now everyone's in the place of England where we believe again, where we've had good tournaments, we've had good times out of our friends. I know everyone was locked in on Sunday in the pub, at their family's house, or whatever. Like everyone was doing something for the game. Like that's not usual. Like, I didn't grow up doing stuff for England games, whereas now I'm going to the pub. I'm seeing friends, and I feel like the feeling's been restored. We have trust in the players now. We've got a good group of players. The next manager needs to be the manager that can have that key plan against these really big teams. What are you going to do when we play France? What are you going to do when we play Italy in a semi-final or final? What's the game plan? How are you going to try and break these teams down? How are you going to try and control those games more? That's the key challenge. But I think Southgate has laid an incredible foundation for whoever comes next. An incredible foundation.
Yeah, and listen, I second what you said. I second what every one of you guys have made very, very valid points today. But for me, again, I say he has overachieved. It's like I've gone to see a Rambo film, and exactly what I expected to happen has happened in it with South. I wouldn't expect him to, be managing Middlesbrough and then, doing the England under 21s and then coming up against, a Spanish team or Mancini, and he's gonna, I just didn't expect that. But he has definitely overachieved. One thing I will say,
the Spanish coach that sorry to interrupt you. He's come from just through. He's not.
We will, yeah. No, that is true, and we will come on to that. The Spanish coach just now. The last I would say, just to end it on Southgate, is how crazy it is. Is people say football is not about winning. If he had won on Sunday, all these words that we've probably just said today for the first 16 minutes, I would be seeing all over the media, "Arise, Sir Southgate." That's the difference of when you win something and when you don't. And now
that will still happen. I think the Arise. I think he'll get knighted.
He's going to get
the think so?
Yeah,
I think he will.
What now? Is it Christmas?
I think
right?
the news report was it was irrespective of whether he won or not. He was going to get United because of what he's done. If you think about it, yes, he might not have won, but he went further than any other manager since '66. Man, two finals and a semi-final and a quarter-final.
Yeah.
Listen,
think about some of the managers that managed England.
Restored the feeling, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. They restored the feeling. That's clear. And I think, as a man, I think you both all said it. Is like, especially when he's picked up with the racism piece, how he's covered himself as a person has been commendable in that respect. So yeah, he got the job.
The players bar one. Sorry, Naeem. The players bar one love him. Ben White, not so much, but everyone else, I don't think they have a bad word to say about him. You know what I mean? So
that's true. He has definitely transitioned England, and the next manager coming on is he's got a squad. They seem together. So no, he has done a good job, and he deserves a good send off as well.
Who takes over?
Disappointed. I was obviously I've been reading a lot that he was disappointed with, other television pundits being critical. Some of the England fans, throwing beer at him and stuff like that. Unfortunately, managing it does kind of happen, which is it's unfortunate, and it shouldn't. Look, you can ask Saka. You can ask different players, when you're winning, everything's fine. When you start losing, it does get very toxic, unfortunately. But like they will always say, it's only a minority. So we move on from then. Right, England. What went wrong? Mike, what went wrong? It's another European final that they've got to. Ed did allude to the fact that, well, it is a fact that it was probably the easier side of, the contest. Someone made a very fair point to me that said that once you qualify, it should go into like a pot again. I know it sounds crazy, just like the FA Cup, and you should kind of choose, because what's going on is teams are just finding themselves on that side or that side, and it looks like a much more difficult route to the final. But what went wrong? Because it was a very favourable side. I know if it's Ian Wright has come out and said, look, it doesn't matter. You've just got to play who's there, and it's all international. But it does matter. Mike, what went wrong with England?
I think throughout the tournament, England never had the right balance in the starting 11. I don't think so. The start of the tournament, we start this with Trent in midfield. We have Foden, Bellingham, and Saka behind Kane, and it never really works. Partly because Kane, Bellingham, and Foden all want to operate in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
So you only have Saka stretching play, and you guys watch Saka more than I do. But my sense of Saka is he's not.
I don't know if that's actually quite right, Mike, because we've said you are undercover Gooner. So
absolutely, absolutely not.
Get him.
He watches Arsenal a lot more than.
Guys, let's be guided on this podcast. You guys watch Saka a lot more than I do, and I wouldn't say I think Saka's amazing. By the way, he's not sort of player that constantly wants to go in behind. What Saka does is he gets the ball to feet, he'll square his man up and beat him. Time and again, he'll beat his man, he'll go inside, go outside. That's Saka's game. So England never had anyone who stretched play. We had too many players operating in the same zones, didn't really fit. He removes Trent, puts Gallagher in, then puts Maynard in eventually. But just at no point did we ever have the right balance. We never really had control of games. What's funny is in the group stage, despite not looking that good going forward, we actually had a really solid defense. We weren't conceding any chances at all. So it's kind of like if we get the attack right, it might work. Then we started to look a bit more shaky defensively, I felt, in the knockout rounds, and the balance still wasn't there. So I think we struggled with balance. We struggled with balance and control. We didn't really play good attacking football. The patterns of play weren't there. And against Spain in the final, I thought we struggled to play through their press. Spain were pressing us like crazy and had a really structured way of approaching the game. And we struggled with it. I think you see the midfield performances of Rice and Maino in particular. They were getting pressed to death in there. It was a really proper performance from Spain. And, everyone, when Rodri came off, everyone in the pub around me was like, oh, Rodri's off. Oh, my gosh, Rodri's off. Ever Zubimendi came in and did the same thing. It was just
and I'm just
a well-oiled machine, Spain.
I'm just looking at Ed right now in terms of Zubimendi, because Ed, I think we're thinking the same thing. Me and Ed just went, yeah, when we've been linked with him before. Yeah. And I thought you have to have some sort of kahunas. Come on, with the player of the tournament, Rodri, being injured at halftime, and this is a final as well. You've literally just been the backup. He knows he's the backup to Rodri, and you come on in a final, and you put in a performance like that. For me, I mean, they didn't look too different in the second half. I think you're right, Mike. There was a little time just before Palmer's goal but I just thought he was. I mean, he overcooked one of the passes, which was dangerous, but he did look fantastic. But no, Mike, some very fair points. Ed, of course, England are, they've lost the final against Spain. Someone who I think is well-versed and the best in this position to now point out individual scapegoats is, I'm very sure, Ed, you've got your list. Preach, brother.
I don't think it's a time for scapegoats. I think you have to look at, I think the part politics probably played in this. His personal decisions. I was listening to a podcast, Touchline Fracas, and they mentioned maybe not having to bring Gallagher if you've already got, Mainu, Walton, Rice. You don't need extra legs. You could have probably brought in a more offensive midfielder. Things like that. Personal decisions where it's like, what are we really doing here? Like Shaw's not injured. Shaw's not fit, sorry. You bring him, there's no left back, you're playing a right back and Trippier at left back. And these sort of decisions where you're kind of setting up the team for failure. There's almost like an inbuilt excuse. Well, okay, we didn't have a natural left back, so we have to play a right back. And, Trent's not a midfielder, so why are you playing him there? These sort of decisions where I think if there was a clear plan, a clear tactical plan with the right personnel, and I know it's not easy to do, obviously. That's if everyone could do it, we'd all do it, right? But if there was more of a clear tactical plan from Southgate, the coaches, and the right players in the right positions, maybe that would set us up better. But again, you can't argue with it because you made it to the final, right? But again, when we're watching England play, I don't think there was a complete 90 minutes from any of the performances. I think there was moments, there's Bellingham scoring and Palmer scoring, Saka scoring. So those moments, but there wasn't a complete 1 minute, 1 to 90, and then further on throughout the tournament. And I think that's what's ultimately, along, with not, doing what we need to do in the finals and the big moments, cost England. I think, it's difficult, but what will happen now is hopefully the new manager won't be scared to put players in the right positions, won't be scared to make some hefty calls, I think this tournament, more so than any other tournament, I think Gareth Southgate maybe succumbs to a bit of pressure because usually he's quite steadfast with his favourites and players he's going to choose no matter what. And I think rightly so, certain players that were dropped and didn't make the 26, the Rashfords, Madisons, Sterlings, Grealish, rightly so. But previous tournaments, he might have picked one of them. he might have picked a couple of them just because he knows what they've done for me and I can trust them. But I think this time he said, you know what, I'm going to set my stall out. You haven't been playing well at the club level. You're not getting in. And I think if we had another wide man who could stretch the play on the left, maybe we would have seen a better Kane. Maybe we don't know, because like we said,
that's a very interesting point. Ed, you've taken. I thought you were going to go straight to this, but you've taken a long time to go to the main
I
topic.
know. Like,
let's talk about the elephant in the room, Harry Kane, because I'm literally shocked. I thought as soon as I give Ed to go ahead, he is going to tear this guy apart, man. Pause. But you haven't actually been quite measured and fair. So maybe it's payday today or something.
No.
Yeah, good.
No, I didn't want to just kill the play straight away, because we know. Listen, Foden didn't have a good tournament. Kane didn't have a good tournament. Like these we watch it with our own eyes. But I'm just saying, maybe the team wasn't set up to see the optimal performances from these players, and that's what I'm saying. I think the personnel, the tactical plan was a bit iffy from minute one. So, like you said, to sacrifice, a Rashford or a Sterling on the left for a Foden, who we know is not an out-and-out winger. He likes to come centrally and dictate play from there, combination plays, etc. Like, these are the things where, it gets a bit muddled. You've got 3 players playing in the 10 position. You've got Kane trying to drop back and do quarterback. You've got Bellingham wants to operate in that zone, Foden operating in that zone. It's all muddled. There wasn't enough width. Trippier's not going to give you width anyway. Like, he's not a natural left back. These things, as well as poor player performances, help hinder England from start to finish.
I think you did make a point. You touched on Rashford, and a lot of people would say because obviously his form hasn't been good, they shouldn't have taken him. But sometimes when you look at Kane and the fact that Kane does drop in that pocket, I always think about maybe players that run on. I think Mike made a point of Saka liking to hold it up and beat his man rather than to go into behind. The Kane thing, I'm going to go into, and I'll pass this to Naeem. I'm actually shocked, to be fair, with the abuse, the criticism that Harry Kane has received. And I'm saying this because let's just be logical here. Harry Kane is not playing well. It has to do with the fact that he must have an injury. This I would lay back in Southgate's call, because if my striker is injured and he's not playing well, you've got to take him off. In the final, fair play, he took Harry Kane off at 60 minutes. For me, you can't now say, he's just doing the same thing. That was a big call. That's your captain. Going into the tournament, everyone says, Watkins should have started ahead of Kane. If I even said this
you'd have been
before the tournament, that Watkins, we should be trying to, start because Kane, you guys would have finished me and I would never do another podcast again. We're talking about a world-class striker that has gone to Bayern Munich and is putting up crazy numbers again. For England, he's arguably been, in Southgate's tenure, their best player. I look at all the World Cup, the Euros before, all the England fans, all the joy that has been brought to England fans. Harry Kane's been involved. Some people might say a few penalties. It doesn't matter. He hasn't done it in the final. Fair play. But he's got England to so many finals. You're looking at the most successful period since Ramsey. So for me, I think he is the best striker, world-class striker. First game, he might be iffy. You're not going to drop him.
No.
I'm just saying,
you're not
going to... Come on, or make the decision. He's injured. Or just say, look, it's clear you're not fit. We can't continue with this. In the final, fair play. You got to 60 minutes and you take off Kane. For me, that's quite bold from Southgate, because that's literally saying, this. Look, 60 minutes, a captain being hooked off. And he was happy to run off. So I think it's all going to come out whether he's got injuries or not. Whether Kane has played well or not, look, we can all get frustrated. But I think Kane, from the England fans that are abusing him and being quite critical, I think he deserves a little bit more respect. Sometimes you could say, look, I think you're a bit cooked now. Look, maybe we should. But the abuse, he's finished now. That's it. He should never play for England again. I was just like, whoa. Be critical, of course, but respect a legend, didn't it? And just kind of say, look, he's obviously injured this one. Yeah, I don't know.
He needs more grace, I think, because what Kane's done for England for the past I don't know, since 2016 maybe when he
Yeah,
first
decade
broke
almost,
through.
innit?
Come on, man.
He's been mashing work for years now, really. You know, so I think this is the first. I think he's had a few spells for England where he's looked a bit poor, but this is the first time I remember him just really looking miles off it, as in
Yeah.
just
He was.
genuinely like
He didn't look
almost
fit.
like a detriment to the team, almost like a detriment to the team. And I think it will 100% emerge. I'm so sure of it that he was carrying a knock. There can be no other explanation for that, because this is a guy who scored 40-something goals for Bayern Munich, looked at the top of his game. The season before that, scored 30 odd goals for a really poor Spurs side. So he's not cooked. He can't be cooked. I've literally watched him for Bayern Munich look sharp, look good, look like the best striker in the world, probably.
He's only 30, so it's not even like you can even put
30.
age on his side. He's 30
So
years
yeah,
old.
I do think he's carrying a knock, and I think the player that I would be more critical of, if I'm, and it's not, I don't think it's not really the time for scapegoats, but the player that I think hasn't done enough for England at any stage of his career is Phil Foden. So you can speak about Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham scored 2 goals.
If we speak on that guy,
Phil Foden, who I think is a brilliant footballer.
Premier League player of
Where's
the
his England
season.
moment?
No questions for him at Manchester
Where's his
City.
England moment?
He's a system player, isn't he, Foden? He showed very clearly here that he has to
19
play
years
a system. In terms of Kane, he didn't look fully fit, as one thing. Now, I haven't heard anything about an injury. That's the first I've heard of it, is obviously on our chat now. So potentially he wasn't fully fit. I think the biggest thing, and you've all made great points about it, is tactically, when he was flying for England, he had pace out the side of him. It being Sterling, it being Rashford, and they may not be in the greatest form, but there's that threat. England had none of that. In the final, there was no ball went up top, and we were hoofing it, to be fair. There was some old Sam Allardyce stuff. There was no pace up there. There was nothing playing off it. So he is, and if you look at his numbers of Bayern Munich, look who's got on either side of him. You know, Gnabry plays on it, Sane, Coman. You've got the pace. Even at Spurs, he had it. So you've got the best striker in the world, and this is made by me our point I made earlier with that. So you've got the best striker in the world. Even if he's not super fully fit, you know he's going to drop. Play. Gordon played 4 minutes?
Yeah, good point. Because I was going to mention that, like, what was that about? You know, certain players, I would like to see Gordon in a starting lineup, or at least come on instead of getting garbage minutes. Adam Walton as well. We were talking about controlling midfield. What he's done for Palace, that's controllers right there. These are the things where I'm just thinking, Southgate, use your squad at your disposal. Like,
Ed, that is a fair, but it's very no. Listen, you're right. No, both of you are right. But the reality is Gordon. I thought that he would have been better. However, you're asking Gareth Southgate to potentially drop Pep Guardiola's English roles, the Premier League player of the season, Manchester. Like, look, for me sitting here in this job, it's very easy for me to say, right, yeah, for Foden, you're not really doing it. But honestly, you have to have some real kahunas to do that. But you're right. Everyone here is right about Foden, but who is brave enough to do that?
Maybe the new coach, whoever it is. But I think the thing is with England, I think the final just showed off what they did throughout the whole tournament. Let's be fair. Every game they were hanging on against Denmark. Let's not forget this in the group stages. Switzerland outplayed them. Luck against the Dutch, bit of luck in places. So maybe the luck just ran out. I just thought we had no pace up top. Bar the final where he brought Watkins on a bit earlier. That's where your pace was. But I mean, sometimes you look at Cole Palmer. He had to find a space for him. Coming in with so much confidence. You're talking about.
Who are you going to drop in before we move on?
I would have dropped Foden at the end because Foden for me works in a system, right?
Okay.
He works in a system. He looks great because Pep Guardiola, the way they play football. If England played like Pep Guardiola's Man City, he would look different player. England don't play that way. So I think he is the golden child to your point in England's rose, and I do think maybe he had his favoritism from Southgate because Henderson weren't there, and he had to favour somebody. But I think he can be pulled out of the team much earlier. And I think we might have seen a different dynamic then. But in the day, the best, we talk about England, we'll talk about Spain and give them their flowers.
I think it's unfair to call him a system player just because I do think every footballer is a system player, right? So every footballer needs a system to augment their strengths.
Good point. Yeah.
I think with Foden, it would never have worked with him and Bellingham in the same team.
You think they're cramping each other's space, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think with an international manager, I think you're allowed to have your favourites. I think you're allowed to be like, these are the 15 players I want to bank on to get me home. Because look, you only have a limited time to work with these players during the year. So it might be that some players you just think are easy to work with your style of play, and that's fine. But you need to provide those players with the optimal position and conditions to thrive. So if you're saying
what's Foden's best position? Is it a 10?
That's what I'm saying. So if Foden's the player you want to build everything around and be like, okay, Foden's one of my key players, you need to provide this guy with the optimal conditions to thrive. Now, Foden, I think he can play on the left and on the right. But the problem is, can he play there with Jude kind of coming into that space as well, with Kane drifting in? So what you might want to do is have Foden as a number 10, maybe put Gordon down the left. But you need to think about what are the optimal conditions for these players. If you're going to build around Bellingham, what's the optimal condition for Bellingham? Is it playing him as a 10? Is it maybe dropping him as an 8? Like, these are the things I don't think Southgate kind of got right. He wasn't thinking about the optimal conditions for the different players he wanted to build around.
Yeah. No, I see a point. I'm not going to argue too much about it. I think the thing is, it felt like he was picking a team. Let me pick my best players and I'll just get them onto the pitch.
That never works.
It never works. Yeah. So, but no.
Right. Okay. Whew. I thought that was a lot more easier than I thought, to be fair. You guys have probably calmed down. Maybe if we had done this on Monday or Sunday, it would have been a bit different. We're going to move on. Listen, we have to give them their flowers. Spain, for me, best team in the tournament. I think everybody will agree on that. I believe they are the second best international team I've ever seen in my lifetime. I'm going to put Brazil, of course. I know Argentina's trophies are there, but I'm going to put Brazil for me. But Spain, in terms of Europe, yeah, they're the best. I mean, the 2008 European Championships, phenomenal. Obviously, 2010 World Cup, and then again the 2012 final against Italy. For me, probably the best international performance I have seen. Like, I've seen teams give people a very good flogging, but Italy, it was like magic. I just sat there. I was just like, they had no number 9 as well, may I add on this. And it was like 14 against 10 men. That's how it felt like. Because Italy's whole, ethos was there. Get it up to Balotelli didn't even see the ball. Like they were just chasing it. So for me, that's probably one of the best performances. I have to put them on that pedestal. But best team in the tournament so far. Ed, let's start with you. I didn't see Spain dominating this tournament the way that they have.
No.
But honestly, sensational from him. We'll talk about the two wingers. We're just talking about, older players. We're talking about Rodri in there, Fabian, Danny Olmo from the wilderness, the journeyman. And then Ed, I mean, give us some the gospel on this, man, because
you know what's crazy? To echo what you said, I didn't even have them as dark horses. I didn't know what to expect from the Spain side, because it's like, this is a new era, right? They're ushering in a new dawn. They got flying wingers down the right and the left. They even got, like, if you look at Morata, he's always been a bit of a weird sort of player. He's played at some great prestigious clubs, but he's never ever really been like the out and out, okay, this is our guy kind of player. And he was the captain. He knit everything together. Very clever. Gave centre backs a torrid time. Winning fouls and just a proper right nuisance. Yeah. But back to the overall thing, I didn't even see Spain doing that well. I thought, okay, they might be a tough out, but I didn't see them going all the way. But from the first game, I think everyone to a man was impressed. It was like this is a proper footballing side, man. A lot different to the 2008 to 12 side, like a proper good footballing side. And they probably played the best football alongside Germany, man. They played the right way, attacking intent. With a bit of flair, and they were a proper team. That's why, like you said, in the final, everyone's thinking, oh, what's going to happen with Rodri? Okay, in comes Zubimendi. Olmo for Pedri. Marino coming in. They were a proper team, and the ethos was right, and they all meant something to the wider team, rather than being individual players. And I'm picking my best players, and I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind. No, it was a well thought out plan, and worthy champions, man. To go out and dump out Croatia, Italy, France, and then England, that's a nasty route to the final, and they did it with ease, man. Pretty much, no one had a chance against them. I don't think I saw a poor 45 minutes from that side. So very, very, very impressed with Spain. And yeah, it's scary because if you look at the age of Yamal, he's 17. Nico Williams, 22. So these guys, they're gonna have no short of suitors.
Pedri will be back as well for them. Pedri will be back. Rodri is 28, so he's now kicking into his prime right now.
Mourinho's 28.
He had a phenomenal season with PSG, especially at the turn of the year. Danny almost come out from the wilderness now. And even if you look at the centre backs,
Laporte was good.
Laporte's in Saudi. Nacho's going to Saudi. These aren't even players that are playing at the highest level.
Cucurella, he's had a horrible season. Obviously better at the turn of the year, but fantastic. Let's talk about. Have to talk about their wingers, Naeem, Lamal. I mean, it was just meant to be for the boy, wasn't it? I mean, I still don't quite understand why Messi is giving him a bath with his mum. I don't quite.
What is going on with that? Honestly,
there's no questions to be asked.
What
is happening?
They said it was like some sort of competition.
Blessing. I did like his dad saying that he blessed Messi instead. That was his feedback.
We don't know, but listen, it might be a transference of powers. You know what I mean? It might be like Harry Potter. You know what I mean? He's the chosen one. You know what I mean? It looks weird. The phone looks weird. Like, what are you doing? It's very weird. But then if you look at the goal, and then this might be.
Then he plays for La Masia. Then he plays for Barcelona. Like it's like. What is going on here?
Yeah, like it's like almost like divine intervention, isn't it? Like it's supposed to be. If
that's the case, then I know it sounds strange. I might have to take my sons to
La Masia,
go and get baptized by Mbappe. Because if this is what happens, you take your child, here you go, and then you just end up at the same club.
Yeah,
unbelievable. But Naeem, these two wingers, Lamal, and then obviously our Ghanaian brother. Of course, we wish him well. Nico Williams there.
I like how you made sure that you made the point about the Morocco.
You see it.
Yeah, I see that. Because the brother plays for Ghana, doesn't he? The elder brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't choose Ghana under the right circumstances.
Yes. I'd have chose him. Yeah, that was exactly it. No, look, back to breath of fresh air, isn't it? Both of them. I think Lamar, we saw him in Barcelona for the season and he looked like the real deal, but he just no fear. Looked like he was a seasoned vet in terms of, and he looked like he was 23, 24-year-old winger in his prime. Him and Williams dovetailed brilliantly together because you didn't know where the threat was coming from. Normally, there's one side, isn't it? Even in England, feed Saka. That was it. Feed Saka. See what he does. The threat from either side, and they're both different. Lamar come inside on that left foot. Williams can go both ways. And I'll be honest with you, I watched a bit of Barcelona this year, and so I'd seen. For a 16, 17-year-old, it's ridiculous for what he's doing. I haven't seen anybody consistently play like that. We can talk about Messi and that, but name me another kid just turning 17 who's been consistent for the whole season. It's been ridiculous. And when he's out product, maybe you could say Fabregas when Fabregas first turned up. But the one who's impressed me with Williams was I hadn't seen enough of him, and there was a lot of talk and hype about him. I hadn't seen enough of him. So Lamar I had seen, and look, will be the Ballon d'Or best player in the world, arguably the best player in the world in a couple of years. But Williams, there was a lot of hype about him. I know Arsenal have been linked to him a bit. There's a low release clause. He impressed me a lot because he had output as well. He wasn't just going past players, go both ways. He looked at a genuine threat. They were both very impressive. But
it's been a while since I've seen,
Fabian was amazing in that midfield next to him. Because Fabian playing in that 8 role next to Rodri, and for me, he just the way he just controlled the ball and just fed, especially Williams at the right time. A bit Xhaka-like, I like to say. We'll talk about players at tournament later. But yeah, breath of fresh air, the wings. And the scary thing is, as you said, they're kids. They're still kids. 22 and 17. You're just going to see them progress, and they'll be a mainstay of that Spanish team.
Mike, obviously the manager, Luis de la Fuente. He's gone up at every single level of Spain, so he would have known. Obviously, Nico Williams would have known Lamal. How much credit does he really get for this? Because he wasn't really fancied, to be fair, in the Spanish press and stuff. They're thinking who's going to be the next manager coming in. Obviously, they've had Del Bosque before, so he wasn't a household name, but what a job he's done.
Yeah, I wouldn't be alone. I think a lot of people prior to the tournament probably thinking, who's Spain's manager? You have to Wikipedia him. He goes to the Wikipedia page. Who the hell is this guy? Okay, fair enough. Keep an eye on it. And you kind of see what he's done with Spain. and it's hugely impressive. I think Spain weren't many people's favourites or dark horses going into this tournament, and they surprised us all. And I read somewhere that he'd worked with some of these players at the under 19 and under 21 level. So Unai Simon, Fabian Ruiz, I think, and Marino had all been with him through the age groups. So I think it is testament in many ways to Spain's kind of continuity planning, maybe, and the idea that these players have come through the system with this manager and done well. So he deserves huge credit. And I think the way Spain played, I think international football now is well below the standards of club football, but Spain played like a club side. Spain wouldn't look out of place in the Premier League, for example. The two wingers, the kind of midfield setup, the way they play through the lines, the wingers are just so electric and so dangerous throughout the tournament. Morata did a good job up front, really good movement, sharp. They played the best football. And actually, when they did get the last tournament winners in the last tournaments you've watched, maybe so Portugal 2016, 2018 World Cup France, 2020 Euros Italy. Since 2016, in terms of the football being played by the winners of a tournament, they've played the best football I've seen from winners by far.
Yes.
Like there's no doubt they deserve to win a tournament because they beat
since the 2012. Look,
since 2012. You're right. So since 2012, when Spain won it in 2012, this Spain team have played the best football since that Spain team. Like the football's been really, really good. So I think they deserve huge credit, man. The manager deserves huge credit, and I think the scary thing for the rest of the world is Williams will probably get better. Williams, what, 22?
22, yeah.
Yamal's 17.
Yeah.
And that kid, he looks like, when you see a play, and I always say to people, when you see an elite talent, it doesn't take long to recognize what you're seeing.
At all.
I watched Yamal play a couple of times and I thought,
he's in it's the truth.
I just a couple of times and I thought, okay, I know what I'm seeing here. So that kid is going to the stars, the moon, wherever he's going. This is serious. And Rodri and Fabian Ruiz, these guys will stick around for a couple of years still. So that's a team that they're going to grow. They're going to get better. And the manager's doing a good job.
Right. If you look at Spain, go on.
No, go on, bro, please.
If you look at Spain, they're almost like the antithesis to England and France. Proper team instead of individuals. And what's scary about the two wingers, I know we've harped on about them, is they very rarely make the wrong decision.
Yamal,
they got
bro.
IQ as well, especially Yamal. Like, he's 17, but he's playing like he's playing for like 10, 15 years, like a season.
Final action is so consistent.
So consistent with size. The perfect weight of the ball. If he wants to go out wide, he goes out wide, comes inside, combinations. Like, he's a proper player. Exactly. And he does.
A lot of kids at that age do, don't they? They want to do a show off.
Exactly. Look at Ronaldo when he first came through, CR7, step overs. When he simplified his game, that's when he went to the very top. This guy's already got a simplified game. Doesn't take too many unnecessary touches of the ball. Perfect way to pass. His head is always up. He's never dribbling down like some young kids like to do. Like, he's scary. 17.
It is. The thing is, it is scary, but I'm not, and it sounds crazy, I'm not really surprised. I think when you look at young players, you look at obviously Fabregas at 15, obviously now
La Masia, isn't it?
La Masia and Spain.
Yeah,
I just think
they produce them, boy.
Yeah, like, they're not going to panic on the ball. They are going to be calm. It's going to be more of a team game. Look at the players that they've had. Look, Iniesta, Xavi. You look at these guys technically, and we rave about, well, a lot of the press rave about Paul Gascoigne. Oh my God, technically, no. I just said Iniesta and Xavi. Now, are those lazy players? These are players now in this game. And if they played here those years ago, they'll probably walk around the pitch. Give me the ball and then I'll do something. These guys press like crazy. It's just a nation where, regardless if you're technically gifted and you've been, given technique from God, you have to work hard and you have to play in the system. And this has been decades now that you've seen with Spain. So let's talk about the player of the tournament. This is going to get fun now because we're going to start giving out the awards. I'm going to go first. I have to say Rodri. For me, it's very hard. I look at Williams, I look at Lamar, but for me, he's a leader of that team there. And I think it's, Ed, you mentioned that strikers are the ones who, get Ballon d'Ors and stuff. And we shouldn't really lay everything on the Ballon d'Or, this is the litmus test. But for me, Rodri, with the treble last season, and again now, going in there for Spain, I'm running out of compliments for him, to be fair, because he he has to be that good because just as much as the team win when he's in there, like when you look at the record when he's not in there or he's in the team, I think he's lost, is it 3 games, I believe?
Thanks to something like that.
He doesn't lose.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, that's for me. That's my play of the tournament. I would have, and he didn't even play the second half of the final as well. That should have been his swan song. But for me, I just think I looked at that midfield against England, and I just thought, yeah, England not going to see the ball. So I wasn't really surprised with the press, but for me, he should be. He won't be crowned. Of course, it's going to be out of Mbappe and of Vinicius Jr. But I do think
Ballon d'Or. Okay, I thought you were talking about player of the tournament.
No, Ballon d'Or. I think he won the play of the tournament for Euros.
Yeah.
But I just think he's being disrespected here on that front. I just don't understand. Even last season, I know people say Haaland, but yeah, for me, that's my play of the tournament. Mike,
I'm gonna go with Lamine Yamal. I honestly think it was his tournament. I think it's either Lamine Yamal, Fabian Ruiz, or Rodri. One of those 3. I think that'll be my order. I think Fabian Ruiz was actually probably a bit better than Rodri, only a bit better because he had the goals as well, and just I think he's a really underrated player. But for me, Lamine Yamal, the goal he scored in against France, the assist he's got, the general play was just always so high quality. And I always favour attackers because I do think we fell in love with this game not because of holding midfielders or defenders, and there's no disrespect to those players, by the way. I think those players deserve more credit. But I want to watch a player like Yamal, man. I feel like it was his tournament. Like I'll always remember this tournament as the first time I saw that Yamal really do it on a big stage. Do you know what I mean? Like, but we're gonna look. Remember that we look back on 2018 as the Mbappe tournament. Mbappe came to the fore, the celebration, all of that stuff. This is Yamal's tournament. I think we'll look back on it.
You think even I listen. I think a lot of people around the world will. I just kind of feel. I look at that final with Spain, and I can't look past Williams in that, man. A goal, man of the match, and that. I just thought he was fantastic. I look at the final now and I think, how was this won? I kind of say, but I'm not questioning what you're saying. I'm just saying we haven't mentioned Williams. He's been fantastic as well for him.
No, he's a great player. Listen, he's one that to kind of get to Liverpool, we could do a lot worse than signing Williams. Honestly, I love it.
Oh,
you don't attract top players, man. Allow it.
What do you mean? Who do you attract? Who do you attract?
Every time a top player wants to come to Liverpool, what happened? They don't go there. They don't go there.
You guys have been so good.
This is what I've been waiting for.
Liverpool, like, listen. You had a great 9 years, yeah.
Here you go.
A great 9 years.
Okay. Yeah.
You had a great 9 years, yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't attract them kind of. You make stars.
You haven't had a great 9 years. When was your last great?
Don't worry about that. You listen. You don't buy stars, you make them. So all this.
That's fine. We make stars. We've made plenty of stars.
That's fine. Continue doing that. You ain't gonna get Williams like that.
What have Arsenal done in the last 20 years?
Yeah, we've got 20 years, man. Like, man, get a new line, innit? Do you know what I mean? About we're gonna.
Yeah,
it's
what
Arsenal done. You ain't getting him, bro. You ain't getting him, man.
Okay.
You can
You might not get Williams, but what have Arsenal done for the last 20 years?
Aren't you bored of this?
How many Premier
the
Leagues?
last 20 years?
How many Premier Leagues?
The same amount as you in the last 20 years. One.
No, you haven't won one in the last 20 years.
2004. What year are we in? 2024?
No, we're discounting that one.
We're not going to new season. We're going to 2025 season.
I'm doing 04 and 5. 04 and 5 onwards.
It was, okay, but change to 04 and 5. Okay.
A couple FA Cups, but you know what I mean? It's lean years. We were eating too much.
In Invincible season, I mean, I'm going to answer it for Mike. An Invincible season is not been done again.
That's cute, man. That's
cute. And
how many Champions League, guys?
No, now, Mike, on that note, I have to go to Laim. One, I don't like that question, and you know it's a nasty one.
It's a nasty one, man.
I need to cut.
We've got a long time to go for all this stuff, yeah, definitely.
Tournament for you.
I decided for Fabian Ruiz.
Okay.
I think Rodri was a great. I think I must say, Yamal amazing, and I can't say anything negative about the kid. The guy's going to be the superstar. He's going to be the next big thing. But Ruiz was tremendous. Every game, scored goals, created chances. Skillful, technically, and just always seemed to pick the right pass. played every game, didn't he? Bar I think Albania where they rested the whole team.
He's at PSG right now, isn't he?
PSG, Napoli.
He's been a guy since Napoli days, man. He's been cold since then.
Days. I think it was a Betis. Was he Betis or Seville? He's a Seville boy, so I think it's from Betis initially. But for me, consistency every game, 8 out of 10 at least, 9 out of 10. It's difficult because I could also say Rodri. I also could say, to be fair, if we did a young player of the tournament, it was definitely Yamal, right? For me,
well, he won that. He won that.
He won it. He win anyway. But for me, if I was going to get Fabio Ruiz, I think Fabio Ruiz was tremendous.
Right. Edward.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo what Mike said. I'm gonna go with Yamal, man. I just think it was the story, the youngest player ever to start a tournament, and the game that swung it for me was the France game, especially with the back and forth with Rabiot. Rabiot was talking some smack. He scores that goal, and the good thing about it was he was itching to score a goal. You could see it was weighing heavy on him. He wanted to be the youngest to ever do it. And listen, France are no mugs, man. To do it against them, and it wasn't a tap in. He held it in top bins like it was a proper goal. And then obviously the celebration, and then the little back and forth on Insta, the chest piece, and that kind of stuff. I just think it was a tailor-made tournament, similar to Mbappe in 2018, like Mike said, and then even like Rooney in 2004. A player that just announces himself on a world stage and says, listen, I'm here. There's nothing you can do with me. There's nothing you can do. Whatever way you want it, I can do it. Do you know what I mean? So I just think it was that sort of tournament for the kid. So yeah, and a wild shout for me as well. I know they didn't go too far, got dumped out the quarters, but I think if Germany had gone all the way, Musiala. Musiala for me. He announced himself on the world stage. He was a proper player for them, man. He's going to be Germany's best player for a long time. So,
by the way, have you guys, side note, have you guys seen Yamal's dad hustle hard 304?
304, yeah.
He's living the. Listen, I love
living the dream. He's living the dream.
I love it, man.
He reminds me of Memphis Grizzlies player. You know when you're just happy your son's made it.
Yeah,
you're living a dream for your son. So yeah,
that's not bad. That's not bad soon, man. No bear's gonna be
100%.
100%. There's a great story behind it, though. I think but the funny thing is that Jesus Navas was playing behind him most of the talk. Well, played behind him until he was older than his dad.
Yeah,
there's a weird stat that he had players playing with him.
Listen, it's a beautiful story, and that's we love football. We're gonna go on to which players failed to perform. Mike, who were your players that you thought you've had a stinker in this one? Big reputations, a lot of expectations on them, and they just didn't perform in this tournament. There's been a few.
Yeah, Killy is the main one for me. I think you look at him, the prime of his prime time, just got the Madrid move.
What about the nose? That was a bit.
You're thinking, here we go, it's Mbappe's time. And he was just really, really poor. Really, really poor. So, yeah, underwhelming from him. I thought Foden was really poor. I thought Jude gave us 2 really good moments, and that's what Jude does. But his general performances were really, really poor. Szoboszlai, I watched him play for Hungary. I was disappointed. I thought he was quite poor.
Been quite a disappointing year, isn't it?
Listen, the spotlight's on him. I'm keeping a close eye on that situation.
Are you? Oh,
very close eye. My eyes open.
They were talking to smack.
Yeah, I'm not liking what I'm seeing now.
God is good. Is what I'm gonna say. God is good.
Yeah. He's not midfielding right now, man. He's just running around.
Dominic, I've just got to let you know it's not a good play. Sometimes where you're at school, you're like, yeah, Miss is on you, man. No, when Mike is on you now and watching it.
Yeah, I'm
drop it out, family. Drop it
out, family.
Yeah. So those are the players that stood out to me as the big disappointments.
Yeah. 9.
I think Mike covered most of the players. I think it's difficult because I think there wasn't anyone that really had a massive thing. I think Mbappe was a good shot. I think because of his high levels, right? Foden, I've already talked about, to be fair. I think one team, I'm going to go more team-wise. The Italians, they were very disappointing as a general. There was nothing, I'm struggling to pick any other team players that Mike said, but the Italians as a team were very disappointing overall. But player-wise, I think the one that disappointed me must be the most was Mbappe. I think he's the best player in the world. I still think he's the best player in the world, and I think he let down. I think bar Kante, who played brilliantly with them, but he had a great tournament.
And Saliba.
Saliba was.
Listen, he was unbelievable.
Oh my!
Yeah, he
Listen,
was.
I give credit when credit's due. Saliba, that's what it
Canate.
looks like.
Canate.
That is exactly what it looks like.
Saliba. But I think if I'm going to pick any of the players,
Canate.
the one who disappointed me, Szoboszlai was one. I expected much more from him, especially in the Hungary shirt.
Ed,
No, in the
what's
Hungary
wrong?
shirt.
What's it? Expecting from who? Who is he? Allow him, man.
No.
Allow
When
him.
did you see how he got hungry to the tournament? Right?
Okay.
Literally,
No, I never. I just don't ever watch your.
he is a talisman there, so that's why it was a bit disappointed with him. Yeah, I think that was it. Those are the main ones. But yeah, Mbappe head and shoulders because of his capability and what he can do. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Edward.
Mbappe, man.
Wow.
You're the spokesman for Mbappe now, man.
Listen, that's my guy.
A bit of cheeky talk when we had a convo about 2 years ago. I said, relax, don't like start.
You know what? Listen,
at the moment, I said, look, he will score more goals, but he's not a better
man.
player. Technically, the way he reads the game.
I'm a fair man, and listen, I just saw the trend of what he was doing.
Yeah.
So I jumped the gun a little bit. I said, listen, when it's all said and done, I think he might clear Henry.
For goals, you're right. And you know what? Madrid is a new chapter, so I might now get.
He's got a long way to go, man, because it's like Henry affected the game in different ways. Even when he wasn't scoring, he was still the best player on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And time and again now, we've seen it. If Mbappe sometimes doesn't score, what else is he doing to affect the game? And that's a mark of a real top-level player. And listen, he's a top-level player. Naeem, I think he's the best player in the world. But you're France captain now. You've won a World Cup. You started in the second World Cup final. You got a hat-trick. But when it comes to the Euros now, he's left wanting, man. It's either doesn't like the Euros or maybe now the pressure of the armband. I don't know, but he needs to step up, man, and step up real fast. I know he broke his nose, but still no excuse because even if he didn't break his nose, I reckon the tournament would have gone the same. I just don't know. I think it's too much of individualism. I know that Deschamps can say, listen, I've won a World Cup. I've got to another World Cup final. I've got to a Euros final. Stick with me. But I think maybe it's time for new blood over there. The same thing with Southgate. I think it's time for new blood over there. He's had too many, cracks at the whip. Allow it now, man.
Zidane has been waiting. Zidane has been waiting. Just to put you out your misery, French FA have said he will stay on for the World Cup.
I know. And the funny thing is, I wouldn't even put it past him to get to another World Cup final. But in terms of when you think, because you said this, Nobja, you said the best team outside of Brazil of the past 20 years, whatever, you said Spain. France have a shout up there. France have a shout to be mentioned as one of the greatest ever international teams. Yeah. They make finals regularly. They win. They've had some of the best players. They've got the best academy in the world in Clairefontaine. Do you know what I mean? That's something with the Masia and all these other fabled academies, right? But I don't know, man. Time and again, you want France to prove everyone right. Because I think everyone said, listen, if they're not favourites, they're especially dark horses, and they didn't play well at all. But yeah, he had a bad game. Kane had a bad tournament. Foden, bad tournament. Yeah, I think those three. Portugal had a bit of a stinker. I think it's time for Ronaldo to retire now. You know, you listen. He said it's going to be his last tournament, or his last European tournament. I think he's maybe waiting for the World Cup. But I think if Portugal are to go anywhere, they need to make a big decision and maybe drop him. But again, it's Martinez. If he's even in a job, you know he hasn't got the backbone to drop Ronaldo. But yeah, Portugal didn't do well.
But De Bruyne. We've got back to talk about Kevin De Bruyne.
But with Belgium, they're another one. Like you don't rate Belgium. They've had a golden generation for 10 years now. They don't do anything.
I didn't watch enough of him, but he didn't sparkle at all. You know, he's the main. You know how he just pulls strings for City.
Yeah,
he's Saudi bound, man.
He's got in it.
He's cooked.
He wants to get that last bit paid in and chill.
You think KDB's cooked like that?
I don't think he's cooked, but I think he's just like, look, he's won the Premier League 6 times, something ridiculous. Won the Champions League, legacy secured. He can just go and relax.
Go on your money, innit? Go on your money, yeah.
City about to get hit with the Rico as well, so I
can't see him going to Saudi. I can see him going to MLS. I don't know.
I think he's been linked to Saudi though.
He's been linked to Saudi.
he said like at the end of the season about obviously the money is
Oh, he's gonna get like $1 million a week or something stupid.
Who am I now? I've got a few in terms of which players did fail to perform. Of course, Mbappe. I think he's near the top of my list. Again, everything you said, Ed. He is the talisman now. I just kind of, I think the moment when I thought, right, this Henry conversation might have to be deaded is, again, look, I don't want to be disrespectful to the French league, but obviously Henry was in the Premier League. Henry was, some of the world's best defenders in there. He played in Serie A. Didn't play great, but I'm just looking at his route and where he was, especially the chance against Spain. There's a few players in the world, especially Henry, when he cuts in onto his right and he has got the ability to pass the ball in the net, he's not missing. He would not. I don't think I've seen Henry cut in and then just that moment. I thought, where's the composure? Like these sort of players, so he had a stinker, but maybe because of the broken nose. I think Harry Kane, by his standards, maybe he was injured or not, but this is a guy who picks up golden boots for fun. You're just on the back of a 40 goal. He was very, very poor. Phil Foden, very, very poor for me. The one who really, I'm not going to say Shabazz because I had no faith. Shabazz doing anything. The one who you did mention for me, and I think it was a travesty, and I think I have to apologize because I tried to be nasty and entertain certain conversations I didn't really believe in myself. It's probably like Nigel Farage or Boris Johnson talking about Brexit. I just wanted just to be an MP. So I said, right, let's talk about Ronaldo and Messi. Like I'll admit, shamedly, I just used to have these convos just so I can wind people up. But what I saw from Cristiano Ronaldo in this tournament, I've seen that, and I can't believe I'm saying it because this is one of the greatest players that's ever lived. But there comes a time when I've gone to the barber shop and I've looked at a guy and I said, this is your last skin fade now, my friend. Like, no
you gotta let it go with it.
No, there's no point in telling the barber, like, yeah, just there's no point now, my brother. Like this is it. And I can't believe I'm saying this to a legend. Yeah, this is like, bro, allow it. Just look, just wear caps, just take it.
Drop it out, family. Drop it out.
There's no point, my friend. Let's just.
This is your last skin fade. Is crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it? He's a terrorist. So this is your last skin fade.
And do you know the thing is with Ronaldo? I think he could have got away with this. And what I mean is, when it looks at the crosses, he's probably one of the best that I've ever seen in terms of heading, getting in. I thought, okay, maybe you can get away with it. You haven't got the legs anymore. It was the free kicks. Rather than go out and say, look, I'm not the man anymore, but let me just kind of fit in. You are taking the same, puffing out your cheeks, hand on the hips, and you haven't scored a free kick, I think, since the hat-trick against Spain in
2016.
2016, isn't it?
No, it was 2018. The World Cup. That's 6 years. Yeah. Guys, are you hearing what I'm saying? 6 years of free kicks for Portugal.
Yeah.
The same. You've got players there like Bernardo Silva. It's actually like no shame now. It's actually like I don't really care.
It's too shameless, man.
It's bad. It's very, very bad.
The worst ones was he was taking it from the corner, like from the side of the penalty box, and he was shooting, bro. He was doing exactly the same thing, and it's like, why are you even there?
And now it's picked up, and not that this comparison, but Messi now, he's assisting. He's picked up a World Cup. Now he's picked up another Copa America. My friend.
What did Jamie Carragher say? Leave football before the football leaves you.
Yeah.
At least at international level anyway. You know what I mean? Saudi, he might score 20
Saudi payday.
But yeah.
I think this is because have we seen a greater player go out like this in their last tournament? I saw Zidane's last tournament.
Yeah.
Ronaldo's last tournament, 2006. He actually got the record at that time before Closer got the record. So at least he could say...
It was a bit shaky. It was a bit shaky, though.
It was, but at least he could say I've got the most World Cup goals. Of course, he was severely overweight. And
couldn't even move. Yeah.
At least there's something to say.
Mm.
But this one with Portugal and Ronaldo,
But it's
I might have
the same thing that made him great is the same thing that's almost going to kill him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and he's too big, unfortunately. He's bigger than Portugal. Who is going to come in and say, listen, Ronaldo, you are the all-timer. You are the GOAT of all GOATs, yeah, for our country. And if you're not the GOAT, you're number 2 all-time in all the football. But I'm sorry, my brother. We can't have you taking prime minutes and a space for someone that can do better for the team right now.
Mm.
And bro, you saw what happened when Ten Hag tried it. Man went on TV and done a hit job. Who's going to do that for? And he's God in Portugal. He might not be God in Manchester, but listen, in Portugal, ain't no one big enough to do that. So that's why it's techie.
It's just you know what it is? I understand that you don't want to drop him. It's the free kicks. That's when it's like, all right, look, at least be a team player and say, look, there must be a better free kick taker in here. But look, we have run our course. Mike, it has been a pleasure as always, box office man. Before I let you go, obviously being a Liverpool supporter, you will be back on the Offside Chat, obviously, once we do start this on August the 12th. On a Monday now, we've moved there. Liverpool, where are you going to finish this season, Mike?
Listen, I can't.
I need this documented. So
no. I can't answer that until the summer window has concluded.
Okay, fair play. No, fair play, Mike.
But you'll get me. Listen, I'm on the pod. Me and Ed will tussle. We will tussle.
I ain't saying nothing.
We will tussle.
I ain't saying nothing.
Big season. Naeem, Edward, of course. Sorry, Ed, did you want to say something? Or
I was going to say maybe it might be a remontada for Salah. He's got his trim. I think he's gone Turkey. He's getting the corners filled in, so he might be on smoke. So he might be enough to fire at least top 4 with a new trim Salah. Yeah, it might get nasty. It's
exciting, a bit nerve-wracking for Liverpool supporters now. It's a real new era here. Like, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen.
Trent to Madrid, I'm seeing a lot of that.
Is it?
Stay calm.
Really?
I can see him ending up there.
There's reports that, they're looking at Trent.
Well, I have seen those reports as well.
I'm ducking, man. Why am I staying in Liverpool for?
Right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to, obviously, the Beat London 103.6 FM YouTube channel. The Offside Chat will be back, as I said, on August the 12th, man. Peace out.
Love.
Boys.